one evening there was a little talk by two people. One was a man who'd had come out of the concentration camp, had lost his father, and I think it was his brother. And he told the story, and his eyes were huge, and his voice shook, and his hands shook, and he looked the way I would look if I were telling you that story about my family in a concentration camp. And he was followed by a woman who told exactly the same story. She'd lost her father, she'd lost her sister, the two dearest people in the world to her. But she was beaming. She was smiling. She was obviously a whole, intact person, a whole loving and functioning person. And so I said to myself, I have got to find out what her secret is. I think none of it was horrible to her. I think all of it had been in some way, I don't want to say redeemed, but just God's light kind of shone through it all for her. And that's what she wanted to tell. She wanted to say, she'd say, it was very hard in Ravensbrück, but God is good. God is good. God is always greater. She didn't want to go and see the body. Didn't want to see her sister lying dead on the floor where she'd been left. And then getting there and finding that Betsy had been, truly a miracle, had been transformed. It was a young woman she saw. I was thinking of it now, it just brings tears to my eyes. She'd seen Betsy before the horror, before the starvation, before the brutality, and just a little promissory note, I think, for Corey, for the heavenly Betsy. I think they've gone to the meat of the story. I'm amazed, because of course a play has to cover much less territory. Play doesn't have can't begin to go into all the details. I think Corey's encounter, for example, at the end of the war with the man who'd been a betrayer, who had caused the death of so many people, and just played false with people. But her compassion for him, I'm so glad that they're doing that scene, because it wasn't just that she forgave the people who'd hurt her, the Germans, but here was a fellow Dutchman. Here was a friend, a supposed friend, and that's harder than forgiving our enemies out there, you know.
One of the things that Corey was very aware of is she was not an easy person to live with. She was sharp, and the rest of the world was not as sharp as she was. It was brilliant, and she would get impatient with people, and she would let it be known that she was. And she would see that there were reactions to this. People would back off, and they'd get a little bit ready to just not ever ask her anything else. So she would never let the sun go down without straightening out a relationship. And that's been part of our own mantra. We just try to do that all the time.
She burst into tears when she saw the house, because she remembered it as the lovely, lovely home where she'd grown up. And it was a slum. And there were just a number of apartments in it, not taken care of. The floors were not swept, and the wallpaper was peeling. And it was just a very depressing, empty, kind of a barn-like, unloved place. And Corey burst into tears. And at the end of her life, she lived to see, partly because of the book, I guess because of the book sales. The book sold enough copies that they were able to redo it completely and put it back. Not their exact furniture that they had and so on, but furniture of that period. And so they put it back pretty much the way it was for her, and she was so happy about that's her face seeing that house when it was restored was something I'll never forget. I'm hoping that they can get, absorb her message, the message of her that she lived the rest of her life to dispel around the world, which simply is that whatever happens to you, and we're all going to have tough things in our lives. These kids will. whatever happens, God's love is stronger and deeper, and He's there, and He won't let you down.